to freedom, day 6. Might have to go inside because it's really windy out today. I'ma see. Welcome back to Dudes Ascend. My name is Hamilton, and here we talk about how to elevate ourselves as men. And we are on day 6 of our 30-day March to Freedom from Porn challenge. Yeah, baby, it's getting real. Yesterday, if you've been following along, we talked about how porn affects your brain. We talked about your brain on porn. Gary Wilson's very well-known book and documentary. Rest in peace to Gary Wilson. He passed away, I believe, a few months ago, actually. And today, I want to talk about how porn affects relationships. Now, if we are understanding that porn very powerfully and negatively affects your brain, it should be natural reasoning deduction to then understand that it's going to affect the rest of your life, especially your relationships. And today I want to cover 3 big ways that porn affects relationships. This is a well-documented fact that porn is a very big problem in relationships, especially porn addiction. And there are countless studies out there that show that people's rate of divorce is doubled when a porn problem is present in the relationship. Doubled. Those are big numbers. That's a big significant change there. And so obviously there's a very strong tie between relationship problems and porn addiction. So these studies are at odds with maybe a common belief that porn is harmless. It's normal, everybody does it, and it doesn't really harm anything. But today I'm going to talk about 3 ways that it really does, and these studies show that it obviously is having a major effect on relationships, especially marriages and committed relationships. So I'm going to talk about 3 ways today that porn does negatively affect relationships in a big way. Before I get into those 3 reasons, I want to make sure you guys like and subscribe to this channel, Dudes Ascend, to help the channel grow. The more that this channel grows, the more I can help others who are struggling with this major problem. I believe there's so many guys out there especially, but it's not just guys, men and women, who are dealing with this problem, and I want to help as many people as possible. So when you like and subscribe, you help me help others. So the number 1 way that porn affects relationships negatively is it creates unrealistic expectations about sex, and it creates a level of dissatisfaction with sex and with your partner because you are spending so much time in this fantasy realm of watching images, watching videos of unrealistic portrayals of sex, that you begin to be conditioned to wanting that instant gratification. Okay, in porn, people are dehumanized, right? It's a very base level just objectification of women, where you're not really considering, oh, that person on the screen seems like a great human being. You're just looking at their body parts, their physical attributes, and you are fetishizing and hypersexualizing women, right? And there are acts and portrayals of how sex happens in pornography, and unfortunately so much of the nature of the content out there involves abuse of women, to be quite frank, violence, roughness, degradation, whether it's verbal abuse, whatever. And it begins to build this conditioning to where we begin to look at our partner the same way. We begin to have these expectations of our partner to perform the same way that these porn stars are performing, and if they are not measuring up to this fantasy world that is just very unrealistic portrayals of what sex actually is, then it can start to breed resentment. It can start to breed this level of satisfaction of, oh, why can't they just be, what this porn actress is doing? Why can't they do that for me? And I mentioned in one of my previous videos that I've noticed one of the biggest side effects of porn for me when I've been using it repeatedly is that this like resentment, right? I get so negative in my headspace, and I think it's very natural. Like we really start to feel bad about ourselves, and that can often be projected onto your partner, where you're not feeling good. You're not feeling good about yourself. Maybe you're layering on shame and guilt and stuff, and rather than facing that or dealing with that, it becomes easier to start pointing the finger at the person who is closest to you, often going to be your partner, and sort of blaming them for your emotional problems, for your lack of motivation, for your depression, all of these things. And it's really, really unfair, and it creates a lot of issues, man. The fact is, this pornography addiction, it's creating a very selfish version of sexual gratification for you when you are connecting with a screen and just pleasuring yourself to these images and becoming so conditioned to instant gratification. You're not really considering being present for someone else, what someone else's needs might be, it's a very one-sided transactional thing where the screen gives you exactly what you want when you want it, and then you're expecting your partner to do the same, and that's just not how relationships go. So it really does breed this very like selfish level of sexual interaction, and it's messed up, man. It causes a lot of problems. The second way that porn affects relationships negatively is it breeds isolation, right? The pornography habit is almost always something that you are doing and seeking out in a private way. You might find yourself staying up really late at night for hours and hours on end, 2, 3, 4 in the morning sometimes, just consuming more and more porn, or you might be like getting time away to yourself so that you can act out on these urges, right? It creates this like shame thing where you're always trying to hide it, and that is very isolating, right? Especially if you're living with someone and you're constantly trying to find ways to like sneak away to get that porn fix, right? Like you're gonna find yourself more and more isolated and more shut off. And afterwards, right, I mentioned the shame and guilt and stuff, like, especially if you're staying up really late at night or something like that, you're gonna be tired, you're gonna be miserable, it's gonna be affecting your mood the next day and really affecting your ability to function in regular day-to-day life. And then you're not gonna want to like say why. You're trying to hide, and that destroys relationships, because your partner might be wondering what's going on with them. Like, why are they always sneaking away? Why won't they open up to me? Why aren't they sharing what's going on with them? And relationships take trust, they take deep intimacy and emotional availability, and porn really, really robs you of that. The third way that porn negatively affects relationships is it destroys trust, right? In this isolating behavior, that's going to create lying, hiding, and that is a really surefire way to start to disassemble and disintegrate intimate relationships, because relationships, like I said, require so much trust and emotional availability, and trust is something you build over time. And if you're continually building this habit of hiding, of lying, covering up your actions with dishonesty and things, that really does a number on your partner's ability to trust you. The other layer, like I said, because you are conditioning yourself to such instant gratification, you're destroying and wearing out that reward center of your brain. It's leaving you less and less equipped to deal with day-to-day life. Little things begin to feel really overwhelming, like you can't deal with them, you don't want to deal with them, and you're going to start avoiding or running away from just the simple tasks of life, doing taxes, going to work, getting shit done, doing chores and stuff. It's going to feel like, man, I can't deal with any of this, because you're so irritable, you're so conditioned for that instant gratification that anything that doesn't give you that, you just feel overwhelmed by it. And that, again, breeds so much distrust and a lack of trust from your partner, because they're like, man, I'm like doing everything and they just can't handle anything. Right? They're so overwhelmed by life, like I can't rely on them to help me out when I need it. And the other really simple aspect, guys, is, and maybe girls too, but just quickly imagine in your mind, like, turning the tables and imagining that your wife or your girlfriend is on a daily basis spending all this time, maybe hours on end, looking at other men, looking at images of other men, fantasizing about different people who they find attractive, and just scrolling through all these different images and stuff, and see if that feels good to you. Can you handle that? And we expect, often as men, like, we expect our female partners to just be cool with that, because it's so normalized. All guys look at hot girls online, like that's just normal for guys to do. But is it really? And would you be cool with your partner doing that in the same way? I don't think I would, and it's really unfair of us to expect our partners to just be cool with that, and to just go with it and be like, yeah, it's no big deal, I get it. I would have a really hard time trusting my wife if I knew that she was, anytime I was away, looking at images of super masculine men and with big muscles, and just watching them have sex with other women and stuff, and fantasizing about all the things that she wished I would do and all this stuff. It's like, I would have a really hard time trusting her. I would. And it makes me sad to think about that, and just turn the tables and realize how unfair I've been at many times throughout our relationship. And my wife and I have a great relationship, but this has been a really hard journey. I actually shared with her years ago that I felt like this was a problem. It became clear to me that this was a problem that I wanted to fix within myself, and I began seeking support, began going to 12-step groups and therapists, and doing programs. I have app on my phone called Fortify that is all about quitting porn. Basically, you name it, I've tried it, and it's been a very arduous, long, exhausting journey of a few years that has really affected our relationship. The irritability and the withdrawal that you go through as you start healing addiction can be really tough for your partner to be present for, because it creates this emotional, like, roller coaster, and that irritability and stuff gets taken out on my wife, especially when there are a lot of other stressors on your relationship. Like, my wife and I have been having a really hard time finding a new place to live for the past couple years. When COVID happened, we both lost our jobs. We moved out of our apartment. We stayed with family for a while, and we were staying with friends. And the housing market is absolutely nuts right now, even trying to find a place to rent. And those stressors, on top of an addiction that is present, become overwhelming really fast. So we were actually at a point where it became very clear I can't be trying to recover from this and be around her in close quarters all the time on a day-to-day basis. It's just too difficult and straining on our relationship. So I'm actually here in Virginia, and she's still down in Atlanta, Georgia. We are just taking some time apart to get some space, to both get grounding, and to have a bit of distance to where we're not fighting all the time and adding stress to the situation, and to allow myself to really focus on my own healing. That's why I'm doing this March to Freedom from Porn challenge, and I'm continually seeking therapy while I'm here, and really just prioritizing self-healing and recovery. If you want to see my wife and I talk about this issue together, there are a couple videos that we have on our joint channel called Twin Soul Poets that I'll leave the link for down below, where we talk about porn addiction and relationships and how to navigate that in relationships. And you get to hear her perspective of how this journey has been for her and her struggles of trying to balance being supportive but also having her needs met too. I think they're really important conversations to be had. It is a real addiction, so it is important for partners to validate that and try to be as supportive as they can, but it's also important for us as the recovering addicts to understand that our recovery is really our responsibility and something that we have to take full ownership of, and not expect our partners to try to do everything for us, right? Like, we have to take full ownership of it and understand that as we are healing, they are also healing from those breaks in trust, from those old patterns of us lying and being dishonest, and from the negative ways that our intimacy has been affected. They have to go through their own healing process with that too, and we have to give space for that as well. So those are just some quick thoughts on that. This is obviously a huge topic, and there's so much more out there to discuss, and I'll be covering more on the rest of this 30-day challenge. So check out those videos on our channel, Twin Soul Poets, for more perspective on this topic. Again, make sure you like and subscribe to Dudes Ascend to help this channel grow, help us elevate ourselves as men. We are doing this, quitting porn together, and I will see you guys next time on day 7. Let's go.